Awesome. How you doing? Good afternoon. Welcome to another time here. Book club. We continue with the study through the book. T.D. Jakes books, right? Book, right? And we're about closing the book. I'm so excited on the next book we're going to read. We're here in chapter 14 today. We'll do chapter 15 next week. We'll do an analysis of one of T.D. Jakes' messages. We'll do a wrap up. We'll take 1 week break, and we will be on to our book, Cleopatra's Riches. I'm so excited about this. Well, I'm excited about the book. I'm excited about the topic. We're going to be talking about money, and I love money. So I'm going to enjoy doing this. I'm looking forward to it. So today we're going. Let me bring up the slides here. And we'll just shoot here and do chapter 14 of our book. 1 second here. Let me bring up the slides. All righty. Guess you all can see the slide here. We're just going to shoot. Hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 people join with us and we can have some interactive session. Otherwise, we'll just do it. So we're going to be here on chapter 14. We're on the last part of the book, talking about the meal of the message. You know, the nitty-gritty of communication itself. I mean, last week we shared on the recipe, right? The instruction of how to put the different ingredients together, right? Today we're going to be talking about the ingredient itself that makes up the message itself. Right, the meat of it all, as it were. So, and this is a quote by T.D. Jakes. You know, as you will note, this particular part is written by Dr. Frank Thomas, right, who's a seminarian, a doctor, PhD in doing this. So, we're having an expert talk to us about communication, but pretty much from using T.D. Jakes as a subject matter, as a case study, as it were. T.D. Jakes talks about the ingredients of a good sermon, and the word sermon there represents communication. So it could be any kind of communication you might have, but it says the ingredient, or we use the word the essential ingredient, where it comes from what the recipe requires, as well as what you decide to add or subtract. The recipe itself is what you might call the guideline, right? And that's for amateurs. Amateurs have to stick by the recipe, right? Because you're not gaining enough mastery to begin to tweak things around. But as you gain mastery, you can then begin to add or subtract to get different flavors of the same meal you're trying to prepare. But the first step is you have to get to know the recipe and understand the recipe. After you've understood it, you can then begin to tweak it around to get different flavors to meet different audience, different age group, tradition, culture, as there might be according to the message or the audience or what you're trying to communicate, right? That the essential ingredient, right, is what the recipe recommends. Another way of saying that is, in communication, we have the science and we have the art of communication. The science of communication tells you about the boundaries, tells you about it's a recipe. It tells you about how you should put the different parts together. What we call the science of communication really is what you might call the recipe of communication, right? It defines for us what communication is and how it should be done for different group sets in different areas, different places, right? But there is more to it. Right, a person now can hone his own communication by what we call the heart, right? The ART of communication. That comes from the heart. Is what your heart puts onto the science that gives you what you call the heart of communication. That becomes your own brand, your own taste, your own uniqueness, or unique way of communicating, as it were. Right. So, again, there are 4 parts in which we communicate or we do anything in this life. Right, we have what we do with our hands, what we do with our head, what we do with our heart, and what we do with our guts, right? Typically, the ordinary level, right, that uniforms and carries all of us together is where you say what you do with your hands, right? And that's pretty much talking about the science of communication. There we can all learn. We can all have commonality, as it were, as to how to communicate, how to pass a message across, right? But there are those that can differentiate themselves from a general grouping, but not just using their hands, but bringing their heart, right? Bringing their now before the heart is bringing their head, as it were, into the communication, right? You're bringing your head into the communication. You're not just doing it as a gifting or as a talent, but you are beginning to exercise yourself in terms of knowing more or become more skillful, as it were, in communication. So you go to another level than the level that is what you might call the native way of communicating, right? What you are born with, right? Or native knowledge, right? Or native wisdom. But then you get to what you might call the science, really, because then you begin to study into how to communicate, right? So you have your hand, your head, and there is now the place that comes about using your heart, right, to communicate. You know, that's when you talk about creativity. Your heart brings creativity to bear. Your heart brings innovation to bear. Your heart brings its own quarter, its own niche in communication to bear, because you begin to allow your imagination, your creativity to affect the way you communicate, right? So it takes you to another level altogether in communication. And there's also the gods, right? The gods is you now being able to break boundaries, either to establish boundaries. You begin to try things that, or go places that people have not gone through before, right? And all of this are just different ways of communicating, right? And it comes by practice. You're only going to get good at communicating by doing it. You see, I'm a much better person today because I get to do this. The more I do it, the more I find new boundaries. I push boundaries, and I get better at doing it, right? I get better at doing it because I do it, right? And that's just the whole easy thing about it. When it comes to communication, it's one thing to read about it, and that will not get you to a place of uniqueness or having a niche or being able to have a brand that can be celebrated or that is marketable, right? You have to do it to know how to do it. You have to do it to specialize at it. You have to do it to find your own niche. You have to do it to make it marketable, attractive, and desirable, right? All right, let's go on. And so pretty much talking about here about ingredient, it's talking about the fact that some of these are native to us, more like some of the things we already said, and some of this come as per we bring in our creativity, innovation to that, right? To move to new either to on explored frontiers, as it were. You know, so when we talk about the ingredients, they're those that we inherit as a result of where we're born, the tradition, the place we find ourselves, the way we do things, right? But we don't have to die there. We can evolve. We can extend the boundaries. We can push the boundaries and get better at the way we do it. We can move the whole culture forward. And you know, we're all born here to leave a mark in this life. That's the whole essence of being a human being, right? God did not born us here to play the followers game, right? Which is easy, right? Like everybody's doing I mean, there's something inside each of us that we're brought into this life to make our own mark in this life, to make our being here memorable, to immortalize our name, our passage through this life, that people will remember us forever. We're each here to leave our own dent in this life, right? And that's going to come by allowing your own uniqueness to flow out, by gifting the world with you, what is inside of you, right? And like we say again, you know, you got to know how to what is to be able to bring about the more, right? You have first of all be comfortable with what is, understand it before you begin to explore the boundaries, right? Uh, and just to speak a bit more on that, Dr. Frank Thomas was writing sermons are developed out of raw materials or ingredients of a tradition. And really, if you're going to communicate to a particular set group, you have to understand their culture. You have to understand the way they communicate. Otherwise, you're just going to be speaking Latin and nobody's going to understand what you're saying, right? If there's a particular segment you want to speak to, you need to understand them enough to be able to reach them, because it might be the same English you speak it, but the way of speaking it might be different. Interpretation of words might be different. Intonation might be different. Pitch might be different. And there might be different understandings that come from those differences, right? Don't forget again, a very small percentage of our communication is by words, right? People are reading meaning to what we're saying by what they are seeing, not necessarily what they're hearing. And what they're seeing influences what they hear. What they're seeing can change entire words that they are hearing just because of the what they are seeing. The way I'm moving my hand, it's a communication that overrides even the words that I'm saying. So if there's no harmony between the way I'm gesticulating and what the words I'm saying, I might be communicating something other than what I want to communicate to the person that's hearing me. The person that's hearing me might be hearing something entirely different from what my intent is. And therefore, communication has not taken place, right? So, I need to understand the tradition, the culture of the people I'm trying to talk to, right? So that all that I'm doing, my words, my gesticulation can achieve, be in harmony to pass the message, the intended message across to the person I'm saying it to. So, and that's what Dr. Frank Thomas was saying here, is a need to understand the tradition, the culture of the people. And that has come from where their roots, the history, all of that. I need to be able to find my way in there. Even if I'm going to take them to somewhere else, I have to start from the known to take them to the unknown. The only way you're going to take people to unknown is, first of all, they have to accept you. And the only way they can accept you is in the place of unknown. They have to see you as one of them to be able to follow you to where you want to take them to. Don't forget, leadership is a gift that is given to the leader by the followership. It's not something you take by force. So when I'm communicating for people to follow me to the land that I'm trying to take them to by reason of my communication, I have to sell myself to them enough for them to be able to willingly go along with me, right? So, and that's all about communication, right? Just you have to meet people where they are. They don't have to come to where you are. That's not the first place. You have to go to where they are. Then you can take them to where it is that you are or wherever you want to go to. People have to accept you and be willing to follow you for you to have communication. Otherwise you're speaking Latin, right? And here just goes on and just talks about the fact that just exactly what we've been talking about. You have to get to know the tradition, accept it, all right, and people accept you. Then you can take them. You then to wherever it is that you want to take them to, for as long as they've received your person, right? And here, just talking about having done all of that, there's a need to align the assets that you have as a communicator, or preacher, or teacher, or wherever you find yourself, right? And that affects the way you create the message, right? And I love the way Dr. Frank Thomas, kind of explained or used the analogy or allegory of communication with music. I love music, right? I'm an artist at heart. I love creating things. I love being innovative. I love creativity, right? I'm not going to be in a place where someone is not putting their heart to the work, and everyone that works for me knows I don't do things the way everybody does it. Let's try to tweak something around. I love beauty. I love applying my head and my heart to whatever it is that I do. So the same thing goes here with communication, right? It's just like a music, right? And I love music, right? I listen to all kinds of music, right? And some I listen to just the music, just the music, right? I couldn't bother about the words, the music, because I'm a musician at heart, right? And yeah, the words, there are times I do it with the words also, but music can get me where the words are not necessarily right. And I'm all about the music, right? But the same thing with communication, right? I can have all the things that I want to communicate, and I'm not being able to do it in a melodious or in a musical fashion such that the people are not receiving it, right? I have the words, the message to pass across, but everything is disjointed, right? It's like noise, right? So that even though I have the message, people cannot receive it because it's not coming in a reading, in the right reading of vibration that's suited for them to embrace it, right? So I have a message. I need to be able to communicate it in such a way that people can be relaxed enough to listen to the words, listen to the message, listen to that which I'm trying to pass across, right? I should not be just jumping all around and creating noise, right? Communication, it's something that follows a particular rhythm, and typically it's a rhythm that finds a resonance with the reading of the audience that that are listening to you. Because don't forget, communication is a two-way thing, right? So they have to be able to hear what I'm saying and reply, and I reply, and all of them have to be in some kind of resonance, reading, right? Even though they're not talking, but from all their expressions, they're laughing, their gesticulation, you're receiving something. You're receiving whether your message is being taken, not taken, accepted, not accepted, are they open to it? And all of that's taking place in the mind of the communicator, right? Even though I'm talking right now, I'm listening to all the vibes coming in. Even though I'm not seeing anybody, but I can sense the vibes coming back to me, and that affects the way I talk, right? Because it's a continuous communication process, right? And that's just a life of a communicator, right? As you get expertise in communicating, you get to understand how to listen to your audience and get that reading going, right? Because if you're not in that reading, your message will not get home as it's supposed to get. And, and pretty much that's just that. And just to emphasize that, communication is not just about words, like I said before. It's the whole of your body, right? It's the way you speak, your intonation. I know the way I speak. Some people just want to hear me talk, not necessarily because of what I'm saying, but because of the way I'm saying it, right? And that's important, right? That's important, but it's good. I just have to get them to go beyond just hearing the way I talk, right? It's one thing that I can get their attention. The next thing is for me to use that attention to get the message through, right? But the whole of your being, it's communicating. So you have to hone what you have and know how to use it to get your message across, right? And that's all I'm talking about, aligning your asset. Your asset is everything about you, your life, your person, your body, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you gesticulate, all of that, it goes into the message and makes a difference as to what the person is hearing and not hearing, right? And and here still talks about the fact owning what you have, owning your asset, owning what you have and what you don't have also, right? Because I don't talk like some people. I don't have that, right? I'm not going to try to be what I'm not, right? You have to be authentic, legitimate by honing you and using you to get your message across, right? You don't have to be anybody. Whatever you have is enough. Whatever you don't have, you don't need, right? And that's important, right? And yeah, just talks about the clothes, right? It's pretty much and people come to the close from different angles depending on the way you're talking, your audience and all that. But the closer is pretty much just getting our last punch in, making sure that whatever it is you're communicating is not lost in all the gesticulations or examples or whatever else you've done. You need to make sure if there's a point that you want to get across, you need to hammer it in. You need to make sure it's not lost in all the other things that you have said, in the examples or stories. Just make sure that you drive your point home. So it might just be a summary. This will differ depending on the audience you're speaking to. It could be some kind of summary, whatever. But the whole intent is to make sure that the core of your message is not missed by the people you're communicating with. They don't run over with something else other than what it is you intended in your communication. Like Jim Rohn would say, the essence of communication is action, right? So you have to ensure that they get the action that is required by reason of your communication, right? So depending on the audience you have, you can do this in different ways. But all you're trying to achieve is to ensure that the action you're looking for is what you get, is what you get, right? Pretty much. And that's really the close to it. The other one is a study guide. Not fun doing a study guide with me alone. I don't have anybody here today. So I'm just going to jump all of that. I'm just going to go to the calendar. You're right. Next week, we're going to do chapter 15, which is a taste. On March 20, we'll do an analysis of one of Bishop's messages in the book. On the 27th, we'll do a summary of the whole book, do questions and answers or whatever might come up. April 3rd, we'll take a break, right? Just take a break, take a breather, and all of that stuff. And come back April 10th to start that new book, Cleopatra's Riches. I'm all excited about the book. I look forward to it. June of every year on my social media handles, I talk about money. This is just going to flow into June this year for me and just set us up for another awesome time showing about money. I love June. And I guess a lot of people that follow me love June also. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to where it's going to flow into June also. All righty. I think Towa made it as we try to close. So this is the book we're going to read next. We're all trying to shop, see if we can get it out in Nigeria. And if not, see if I can get it out from the US here. So I'm going to try to get the books for those that are not able to get it. At least I have Toba here. And I'll see what I can do. But that's the book we're going into starting April 10th. Hey, Toba, you're welcome. Hey, hello, Toba. All right, maybe you're having a problem with your internet, but I'm pretty much. All right. You're welcome. Happy Sunday.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with the book, with the chapter we read. We just read chapter 15, talking about ingredients. I sent you the slides, so you have the slides. So feel free. If there's any question for me. So the next book we're reading is Cleopatra's Riches. I'll try and see something if I can get it here. If not, I'll see someone that might be coming in that can bring it. So I'll be working on that. Yeah. So other than that, I'm just going to shut it down. And then you're trying to say something, the internet is not that cooperating, Abby. Oh, I'm going to save you the trouble. But like I said, I'll try and get you the book. See if I can get it here. Otherwise, I'll bring it or something. All right. Have a great week ahead of you. And God bless. Hey, thanks everyone.